I'm thinking it's safe to say that if I was stranded right now and had this problem, that I would be panicking. Oh, that's the gonads. This is our new starter ready to go in, and this is a new battery for the camera. Intake. Ba-dum-bum. That is how you check your car to see if your Nissan Titan or your Armada has got a starter issue. Hey First Mods fans, what is up? It's Biff, and today we're working on the Nissan Titan or your Armada, and we are trying to diagnose some start problems because we're getting ready to take this thing up to Omaha to pick up a new front clip for that Stinger. And before I do that, I want to make sure it's going to be reliable. It's had a couple issues cranking. First and foremost is the battery. I've got it on the charger over there, and it is at 76% and not really climbing. So before we go, I will probably have to put a reliable battery in it, hopefully on warranty. And the other thing is to diagnose why every now and then I seem to have a dead spot in the starter. This 5.6 liter V8 has the starter tucked in the intake. I looked around underneath for a while, couldn't find it. So I had to consult the Oracle, otherwise known as YouTube, and found out that that's where it is. So I'm checking out a couple things on it. Let me show you this real quick. So first, what I've done back here at the back of the engine is I've pulled this pigtail from back there behind. You can kind of see where that red lead is going currently. I undid that clip. You can see you just push down on the top of it there and pull it out. It comes out pretty easy. And then I took an incandescent test light on it, stuck it in there, connected it to battery ground. And then as you can see here, I turned the key a couple times, and both times I did, the light came on, which shows that the signal going to the starter is good. So the next step I did was now I've got an alligator clip connected into the, I guess that would be the male portion of the clip back there. And that is going over here to the power probe hook. And this thing is fantastic if you've never used one, because it gives you the option to do a hot shot, which pushes 12 volts of power to whatever it is you're trying to test. And that can come in handy when you're trying to test a motor, or in this case, a starter. So I've got the cables hooked up over here, the positive and negative to the battery. You can tell it's got power because the light's on in the connector. A nice 20-foot heavy-duty cord that comes up to this thing. And as I showed you, I'm already connected in there with an alligator clip. I'm going to plug that in here to my power probe hook. And it's going to tell me that it's grounded out right now. And I'm going to apply 12 volts. And you can see it tries to crank it. I have the key off, so it will not start. Now let's see if we can do this a few times and find whether or not we have that dead spot. There it is. So there you go. We found the dead spot. And this is a bad thing, because what that usually results in is me in the car with the key, cranking it multiple times, or at least turning the key multiple times, trying to get it to crank, saying, please, please crank for me. And thinking that if it doesn't, I'm going to have to get out and tap the solenoid to see if I can break it free, when in fact, nothing could be further from the truth, because that thing's not accessible underneath the intake. A potential concern that my voltage is not high enough coming from the battery, and so after a couple cranks that happens. But because it's holding steady at 76% and didn't drop when I did that, it's telling me that I think this solenoid's going to be bad. So first thing we'll do before we dive into this is definitely replace the battery, check it again. But all signs are pointing towards we are probably going to have to pull this intake and put a starter in, and that's going to be no fun task. But you'll be able to see it here. Okay, so here we go, next day, and we have the new battery installed. Duralast Gold from Autozone, purchased about 1.5 years ago, was fully covered, so didn't have to pay a dime to get that new battery. Thank you, Autozone. It has got the terminals cleaned. I topped it off to 100% before we got started, and everything should be good to go there. We've got our power probe hook connected. I'm gonna go ahead and connect to the starter again, and we'll give it some shots here and see if there's still a problem. That was easy. Okay, so we can't even crank it now. So it's a good thing I went ahead and ordered the replacement starter. Because it's buried, I did go with a Duralast Gold on that as well. Not necessarily sure that that's the best brand to do. Rock Auto has some for quite a bit cheaper. This one's about $300. But I went with new and not remanufactured because I definitely want to have a good starter going into the intake of this engine. I checked the main feed in here, and I got power coming in there at all times. It's at the stud, the nut, and the wire itself. So now what I want to do is I'm going to check this one, because this is where the solenoid pushes power out. Let's check to see how good a power we're getting past that switch. Appears to be getting past the switch. Now we'll come over here and see if it's getting to the actual solenoid to energize it. Nothing there. Are we even getting power to this guy? We're not getting power to any of that. Okay, well, let's see if this is staying bright when we do that. That's just barely dimming. Not much at all. So we got good power coming to the solenoid. It's not making it over to this, and that's because we're in a dead spot on that solenoid. So now let's get a hammer. There we go. So that right there shows you that now I bet we'll have power here. Yep, we get power now when we crank. Okay, so now you can see that lighting up. We didn't pull off that intake for no reason. The solenoid has a dead spot. We tapped it, it came to life, and now it seems to be working fine, but it's time to replace that starter. So when that thing comes in tomorrow, we'll add some intake gaskets, some fuel injector O-rings, and the throttle body gasket so that we have everything we need to go ahead and put in that starter, slap all that back together, and this baby should be running good as new. Okay guys, here we are back the next day, and I want to apologize for the video yesterday because I didn't have my SD cards. This time on the assembly, I'll try to get you in a little bit better. First thing we'll do is get in here and pull out this old starter, which as you saw, definitely has a defective solenoid. Get the towel out here that we had blocking everything. And there you can see our fabulous, not so fabulous starter. And along with some nesting in here from some mice or something. So we'll make sure to vacuum that out. But first, let's go ahead and get this thing pulled off of here so that we can go ahead and put the new one in. And when we have it out, we'll go ahead and vacuum this up a little bit. Let's cover these bad boys up. Block these so we don't get any residue in there. And first thing I'm gonna do is disconnect the battery so that we're not arcing anything down here. It's a 14. Now, getting some oomph on that is going to be challenging. Okay, that's no fun. Oh, what can we do? Put a breakover bar on it that can angle forward. We're going to try a breakover bar that will allow me to lean it forward a little bit with 14mm socket. See if that'll give us what we need. All we gotta do is get them to break loose. Okay, I'm on there, but now I'm in the wrong spot with my breakover bar. All right, here we go. Hey, come on, give me another one. There we go, we're in a good spot. There we go. All right, let's try to go back to the ratchet and see if that works. I think we got it broke loose. All right, broke them loose with the breakover bar and the short socket. Now I'm going to jump in there with my deep 14mm. Gives me enough room to get behind all that wiring bundle and my 3/8 ratchet. There we go. I might be able to turn that one from the stud side over here for a little bit. Yeah, I can kind of turn it from over here. Not great. How about this guy? Oh, he's a little easier. There's one. If I hold the starter up against there, I can kind of get it to unscrew by finger. And there's number 2. The wires are undone. Is this guy just gonna come out? Still got some electrical connectors hooked to him. Looks like we got to undo this guy here and disconnect this electrical stuff from the top. It's off. And so there you have it. The bad starter. So let's go ahead and get the vacuum, clean all this out, and get our new starter and put it in. Okay, so here we go with the new starter. I took this keeper off of the clip of the old one and stuck it on here. And I also stuck this little clip on here in roughly the same spot, as good as I can transfer it over. And so this is our new starter ready to go in. Rat's nest is gone. Let's go ahead and get this guy back on here. It just mounts to this, not a big deal. Right there. Now we can shove our new starter in. There we go. I'm gonna go put some oil on these bolts so they're a little easier to put in. And now we just repeat the fun process of trying to get behind here and thread these in and then tighten them up. Okay, kind of bottomed out for my finger strength, so let's go with this one. Oh, that's so awkward. So awkward. I want my right hand on there. I want my right hand on there. Pretty much snugged down now. Dominant hand definitely helped. Okay, now they're both snugged with the socket. Now, I think I'm gonna have to get in there and try to get that breakover bar back in there again to be able to actually get them tightened up. I just can't get any leverage on there. It's so hard working underneath this dash overhang back up against the firewall there. Then we should be able to ready to hook up electrical connections. There we go. Okay. We are friggin' tight. And I can't breathe. Holy shnikes. I just want to show you why when you're in a tight space and you're trying to be able to get on that nut and you don't have any room. There's 6 points to this. This is roughly level with the top. It's slightly pointing down. Rotate it 1 click left. Get back over here. And then now look, see, I got a point that's going straight up. Rotate it 1 more click to the left. And it's roughly flat again. So it does give you a little bit of adjustability here to try to make it to those bolts that you can't quite get the throw on, because you can adjust that by roughly 45 degrees. By turning it 90 on there, you're getting about a 45-degree change in here for where your points are. So that can be helpful sometimes, and it was in this case, but I still couldn't get this quite seated on there without giving it just a little bit of an extra turn with this guy before this would slip fully on and I wasn't rounding the head of that off. Now we'll go ahead and reattach our electrical stuff here. Now we can plug our alligator clip back in. Power to the starter, no fuel, continuity. That sounds good. The starter wasn't horrible. I think I'd rather do it underneath the car than up here on the top. It's just so hard to get to those bolts. But we didn't have to drop exhaust or anything. We just had to take off the intake. So we've got everything vacuumed out. The starter's in, its ops check's good. We are ready to go ahead and start cleaning this up. All right, so the first thing I'm doing here is just using some carb cleaner to clean this off. I'm gonna let it set on there a little bit because it is pretty gummed up and dirty. And then I'll wipe it down, and whatever I can't get with this, I'll use a scraper. One side down and one to go. Definitely looks better. Also cleaned the back side of the throttle body. You want to be careful. This is aluminum. You don't want to be gouging it up with the edge of your blade, because you can mar the surface and affect the gasket seating. The other thing I didn't want to do is I don't want to use any kind of a wire brush or wire wheel on these things, because I don't want any of the bristles from the brush coming out and going into these intake ports. So again, just trying to keep everything covered as best I can while I'm working. So I'll cover these guys up and we'll move over to this side. Okay, so now we got the intake side of this, and we'll just try to pull out these old seals. And then I'm just gonna go along these, make sure they're clean. The bolt contact points as well as the plastic around these. And then we'll get a rag and we'll clean that up. We'll spray them out, clean them up, make sure the grooves are clear. Just make sure that we clean out our points here for the fuel injectors. I'm going with these Fel-Pros. I don't think it matters which way these go, but they seem to have a little bit more of a bevel on one side, so I'm using that to help me. Okay, all the gaskets are on. So last thing I gotta do is swap out the O-rings on the fuel injectors, and then what I'll do with those is I'll lube them with a little bit of engine oil, and I think I'm going to do the same thing on all these just to help them get a good seal initially until they are good and seated in, and we'll be ready to start putting this baby back in. Again, these are Fel-Pros. You can see the part number right there. Weird thing is these come in packs of 4, even though you need 8. Just stock O-rings for these fuel rails. Make sure to get the ones for the lowers. There are upper ones on here, and it looks like these are pretty much just all brittle and dry and are going to break as I take them off. All right, so just put a little oil in this cap here, soak this little guy, and just see how he goes on. Ooh, he's a little tighter than the other one, which is what we want, but there we go. On and lubed. So on this guy here, there's like a flat flange right here that I'm having to get these things over, and they must be plastic and a little bit brittle. I did, a piece of this one did come off on the side here, but it shouldn't cause any issues. It's below the nozzle, and I'm still retaining the O-ring. Just something to be careful about while I continue doing the other 4 of these. I'll hit them on there. I'm just going to check them real quick to make sure there's none of those plastic pieces that are going to try to come off and get in the cylinder. It looks clear. Get this guy out of the way. There we go. We've got a clear space now to put our intake back on, and we'll be ready to tighten her back down. All right, there was probably the easiest part of the whole job. For now, all 10 of the bolts are in and just kind of run down by hand, not even finger tight, just run down flush. And so now we'll go run and get the torque, and we'll torque this baby down. Okay, so the correct torque on these is 73 inch-pounds. Luckily, I happen to have a Harbor Freight 1/4 inch drive inch-pound torque wrench, and I've set that. The pattern is going to be starting from the center on this side and then going to this side in the center, and we'll just work in a clockwise fashion outward from these. I'm going to kind of snug them down slowly and work my way around. Looks like I got the right height here for my extension. Now let's torque these puppies. But this one's nice and loose again. All right, so that's once over. Now we'll get them a second time just to make sure they're all still torqued. Our intake is back in and torqued to 73 inch-pounds. So now we will go ahead and put in our fuel rail, bring it back over. We never disconnected it from the fuel. We just laid it over to the side, had to take off the throttle body so we could clear the crossover fuel line up front. But we've got it ready to go. All of the seals are lubed, so it should be ready to just drop in, pop those in place and bolt that down. And once we get that line under here, then we'll be able to go ahead and put this throttle body back on, and then it's just a matter of connecting everything up. We are getting close. Okay, get all our spare tools out of the way. Flop this baby back over here. Okay, let's see if we can get these babies back down in here. Okay, we got the line under there, so we're good with that. They're sitting in there on that side. Let's see what we can do on this side. Even easier. All right, I'm gonna try to push these down in now. Even though they're oiled, I'm just gonna go on top of that aft flange there. Now it's popped in. Those are in. All right, let's make sure this side's in. Already appears to be in. All right, everything's in. Now we just got to put in the bolts and tighten her down. Tighten up the 12mm bolts on the fuel rail. We got all of the manifold bolts tightened, all 10 of them, using starting in the middle, then across, the next one forward, across, leapfrog one back, across, all the way to the front, back, 73 inch-pounds. Right here on the fuel rails, we got those seated down in there. Everything is going to be, keep in mind, a little bit of smoke when we first start this up, because we coated stuff with oil, and we've also sprayed a lot of gunk in there, so it'll be a little smoky at first when it starts, but it should clear right up. We seated the oiled up O-rings on the fuel injectors with either some gentle hand massaging or some gentle tapping, and we've got those both seated and bolted in. Those bolts, just snug them up so the fuel rail doesn't go anywhere. Our tube is running across underneath, and so now we can put our throttle body on, and then once we have that on, we are ready to start connecting up all the different hoses and lines and just connecting everything back up with clips and whatnot, and we should be done. So once again, using our trusty Harbor Freight 1/4 inch torque wrench, we're going to install the throttle body on here. These are going to be torqued to 89 inch-pounds, all 4 bolts. Okay, we're going to start putting stuff together. I'm going to start by just snapping on the fuel injectors. 4 on this side. I'm going to snap this harness back into its clips on the left. Okay, so we are getting real close here. I have replaced the hoses back in their position. I've connected the connectors and gotten them all into their, almost all of their little homes. This guy goes, this little homes goes here. There we go. And everything is just about ready to go. I gotta remember to hook up this brake booster line that was on the back of the intake, or I won't have power brakes. That'll be real obvious. We're really close to being done here. I got this one little hose here I need to hook up to the intake just behind the throttle body. Get that guy slid across and clamped. And now I'm just gonna look it over and see where have I missed stuff. Oh, I see a good one. Don't forget Don't forget to hook back up that connector that we've been using to jump the starter. Otherwise, none of this is going to work and you're going to be frustrated. Remember that clip back at the back, the very first one we undid? Here we go. Okay, we got that guy, we got this hooked up, this is all hooked up, everything's hooked up. We look good. I'm going to pick up some tools. We are ready to fire this up, so let's give it a go. Nothing to it. Just replace the starter in your Nissan Titan or your Armada. There's actually a lot to it, but if I can do it, you can do it too. It just takes some patience, some creativity with some of the tools, and a good magnet to find the ones that the car decides to swallow. But this is a job done. We replaced the battery, we got a new starter in there, we showed you some troubleshooting, and knew without a doubt that we went after the fix. So thanks for watching, guys. Please remember to like and subscribe and come back, because you never know what we're going to teach you to do on the next vehicle. We'll catch you again real soon. Take care.